All right, just before we begin, the standard public service announcement in the Zoom shiurim. If everyone can please mute themselves to make the listening as optimal as possible for everyone, that would be greatly appreciated. Want to also thank our sponsors for the Kiddush Food for Thought for the shiur this evening is sponsored by Charles and Janet Jaffe, to thank Rabbi Wogelanter and Shashi for all of their years of incredible and boundless love for the community and everything that they put into the community, for their leadership, for their Torah. We wouldn't be having this class right now if it wasn't for them and their efforts. And we all feel indebted, and we thank the Jaffes for honoring them through sponsoring the shiur this evening. Also sponsored by the Lotzoff family in memory of Cyril Lotzoff, whose yurtzeit was this past week. His neshama should go to the highest points in Gan Eden. His neshama should have an aliyah through our learning. Parshas Naso, which, by the way, fun fact, is the longest parsha in the entire Torah, the longest single portion. But the really fun fact is that Parshas Naso has 176 psukim. Kuf Ayin Vav, 176 psukim. That number, 176, is, for whatever reason, the number that is the highlighted number for being the longest of things in our literature. The longest Perek of Tehillim is Tehillim number 51. Perek Nun Aleph is 176 psukim long. The longest Masechta in Talmud Bavli, in Shas, is Masechet Bava Basra, which is 176 dapim, 176 pages. What the connection is between all three of those things, not going to be discussed during this shiur this evening. My beard's not long enough for that. What I want to discuss is, there are a number of things we could discuss in Parshas Naso, but what I'd like to discuss, what I'd like to focus on, is a mitzvah that's found in this week's Parsha, the mitzvah of Birchat Kohanim, the blessing that is given by the Kohanim onto the people, where the Torah tells us in Perek Vav, Pasuk Chaf Beis, Vayedaber, everyone can see my screen, give me a thumbs up. Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, that Hashem told Moshe the following: Daber al Aaron, go tell Aaron v'labanav and his children, meaning go tell the Kohanim lemor, to say, Ko tevarchu es b'nei Yisrael, and more lahem, that they should bless the Jewish people in the following way: Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, that Hashem should bless you and should watch over you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, that God should shine his countenance, shine his face upon you, and then that will bestow upon you chen. It's a little bit difficult of a word to translate, the yichuneka, which the root of it is that God will give you chen, which over here I see that their translation is grace. Some translated, I think, as charisma. I've seen translated as charisma. I think the Koran does. It's a very difficult word to translate. If you look on the Adat Yishurin website, last year's Parshas Naso class, we discussed the definition of the Yichuneka over here. Then the third of the blessings that's given is Yisa Adonai Panav Elecha, that God should lift up his face, count upon you, Vayasem Lecha Shalom, and he should grant you peace. V'samu et shemi al bnei Yisrael v'ani avarachem. You should place my name upon the Jewish people, and I will bless them. And this last pasuk is really teaching us, as Rashi points out, that it's not the Kohanim that are really blessing us, but rather they act as a funnel. They act as a line, a pipeline that God's blessing is being bestowed upon the Jewish people. Now, the idea of giving a bracha, or really receiving a bracha, is a something that in our tradition is something that's quite significant. You go over to big rebbeim or rebbitzins to receive brachos. My cousin used to stand online in order so that she could get a bracha from Rebbe Knievsky. I went many, many times to Rav Elyashiv Zatzal to go get brachas. It's understood in our tradition that receiving a blessing, like we just pointed out from Rashi, is really a pipeline that Hashem's blessing is being brought to you into the world. My fondest memory of receiving blessings is from my grandmother, Allah Shalom, who that was one of her hallmarks is the fact that her blessings, people from all over town would come to get her blessings. Blessings in our tradition is something that's very, very significant. We have parshios that are dedicated to blessings. Yaakov Avinu, in the way that he blessed each and every one of his children in a unique way before he died. Moshe Rabbeinu, in the way that he blessed each of the Shvatim, each of the tribes before he passed away, and in Parshas V'zos HaBracha. Blessings are one of the centerpieces in our tradition. But I once heard something amazing, which I'm sure many of you have heard me say before, but it's something that is necessary to repeat. Not just worth repeating, but it's necessary to repeat. Rav Elyashiv's closest student is Rabbi Ben Sion Cook, Shlita. He is coming onto the scene as becoming one of the next Gedolei Hador. He is a major Talmid Chacham, but more than a Talmid Chacham, he is someone that is quite unique in his ability not just to know Torah, but to embody Torah. He is a nephew of Rav Shlomo Wolbe Zatzal, who was the Mashgiach of Yeshivas Be'er Yaakov. He wrote the Sefer Alei Shor. He was one of the leaders in the area of Musar, in the area of self-perfection in the modern era. He passed away only in 2005, not too long ago. And Rabbi Sion Cook, who his svarim I keep handy with me all the time. This is one of the more recent svarim that was written by Rabbi Sion Cook. He is an immense Talmid Chacham, and he also is an orphan. Both of his parents died when he was a very young man, just a boy. I think when he was 9 years old, both of his parents died in a car accident. And Rav Elyashiv took him under his wing to train him in the area of psak, in the area of hanhagos, of how to function as a Jew to the highest standard. I recently had seen Rabbi Sion Cook just about a year and a half ago, a year and a few months ago, when I was in Israel, and I went to go to Rav Elyashiv's Beis Medrash, even though he's not there anymore. He passed away in 2012. I went to his Beis Medrash. I saw Rabbi Sion Cook, and I reminded him of the following lesson he had taught me that I'm going to share with you, that really has stuck with me, that it's something so critical, we have to know it. That he told me every time I would get a bracha from Rav Elyashiv, he would come over to me and he would say, Daniel, אתה יודע מה זה broche? Do you know what is a bracha? So I'd say, I don't know. I thought like it's important. He said, אתה יודע מה זה broche? He'd say, a broche ze check. It's like getting a check. He said, what's a check worth? Nothing, unless you cash it. If you go and cash it, so then the bracha is going to mean something. But a bracha is like getting a check. When you get a bracha from someone like Rabbi Elyashiv, that's a big check, right? I would say that when you get a bracha from my grandmother, Allah Shalom, that was a big check. And then the Gemara talks about how one cannot dismiss the bracha of even the smallest individual. If I were to give you guys a bracha, which of course I give all of you brachas, that you should all be successful and grow in Torah and Yiras Shamayim, and that bracha, the Gemara says, you can't take that lightly. That the bracha of any individual is something that's important, but it's a check, and a check is meaningless unless you cash it. So the question I'd like to discuss this evening is, how does one cash the check of Birchas Kohanim? that we get this amazing bracha, that we're given the bracha that the Yishmarecha, that God should protect us, and that God should give us chen, which is something very important, which, by the way, the conclusion of what we came to as to what chen is, which is maybe just one way of understanding, but really what chen is like the ability to be normal even with living by the Torah, right? That you're not awkward in the way you live by the Torah, but you're normal. That's what chen is, which is a necessary thing that one needs to have. Shalom, peace. We look around, all we have to do is just open up our news feeds or watch the news. It doesn't take a genius to, after 30 seconds of watching the news, to know just how badly we need peace. We need peace all over the world. We need peace in Israel. We need peace in the United States. We need peace in San Diego. We need peace in our own homes. We need peace within ourselves. Being peaceful, that wholesomeness is something, that tranquility is something that's so significant, so critical. These are major things. And we are told from the Torah that this is a pipeline straight from God. A pipeline straight from God, that we will attain these blessings. So how does one cash it? So what, you go to shul on Yontiv and you hear Birchas Kohanim, or if you're in Israel or you're davened by a Sephardic community, even in the United States, tomorrow morning, and you go and you hear Birchas Kohanim, okay, good, now that's it. So the world is solved, right? All our issues are done. So how does one cash in on Birchas Kohanim? So I think to properly understand how one cash ins on Birchas Kohanim, one needs to first look at, well, why were we even zoche? Why did we merit receiving the Birchas Kohanim in the first place? And if we can understand that, so then we'll know how to tap into it in order to cash it. So there's an amazing medrash. The medrash in Parshas Lech Lecha, going all the way back to Parshas Lech Lecha. Or you could say jump a few weeks ahead. We're almost at Sefer Birchat already. We're already making our way through Bamidbar. The Medrash tells us, ask this question. It says, Mehechan zachu Yisrael leBirchas Kohanim. That from where did Jewish people, from where did they merit this tremendous opportunity, we'll call it, of Birchas Kohanim? So Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Nechemia, Rabbanan, Rabbi Yehuda, Omer. Okay, three opinions. Here's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda of how did the Jewish people merit Birchas Kohanim. Me'avraham, says Rabbi Yehuda, we got it from Avraham. Because of our granddaddy, Abe, Avram Avinu, because of his commitment to the following, we merited Birchas Kohanim. As the pasuk says, Ko Yihiyeh Zaracha. That God made a promise to Avram Avinu during the Bris Bein HaBasarim, that God made a covenant with him that I am going to ensure that your offspring, your Zaracha will be like the stars in the sky. Now the word ko is the word of attention in the Medrash. It's very often, that's a style of the Medrash. Well, the Medrash will pick up on one word that stands out in a pasuk and use that same word to connect it to another pasuk that uses a very similar word. Go back to Birchas Kohanim. What's a key word in Birchas Kohanim? Ko tivarchu es b'nei Yisrael. In this fashion, ko, you are going to bless the Jewish people. And that's exactly what God says to Avram. Ko yihiyeh zaracha. That this is the way your offspring is going to be, like the stars in the sky. And ko tivarchu es b'nei Yisrael. Reb Nechemia Omer, now a second opinion. Where did the Jewish people merit Birchas Kohanim from? Reb Nechemia Omer, Rabbi Nechemia says, Mi Yitzchak, from Yitzchak, Shne'emar, as the pasuk says, V'ani v'hana'ar nelcha ad ko, that by Akedas Yitzchak, that when Avram Avinu took his only son, Yitzchak, his only son that would be the progenitor of his Mesorah. He had another son, Yishmael, but God had told him that Yitzchak was the progenitor of his Mesorah. But then God tells him, you take that son that he'd been praying for and hoping for so many years, and now you take him and you bring him as a sacrifice. They go up, and Avram Avinu tells those that he's traveling with, that ani v'hana'ar nelcha ad ko, we are going up to the mountain. We're going ad ko. Lefika chamar makom, therefore God says, ko tevarchu es b'nei Yisrael. Therefore we get the Birchas Kohanim. Again, notice the word ko. Ko tevarchu es b'nei Yisrael, and ani v'hana'ar nelcha ad ko. The third opinion. V'Rabbanan Amri, and the Rabbanan say, Mi Yaakov. From Yaakov we receive Birchas Kohanim. Shene Amar, as the pasuk says, in reference to Yaakov, by Matan Torah. When we receive the Torah, the pasuk says, Ko Tomar lebeis Yaakov. This is what needs to be taught to the base Yaakov, to the house of Jacob. Again, the word ko is something that's very critical to point out over here. Ko and ukinegdo, and according to it, ko tevarchu es b'nei Yisrael, that we receive the following blessing. Okay, so we have over here 3 opinions in the Medrash. Why is it that we merited Birchas Kohanim? Number 1, Avram Avinu. It says by Avram Avinu, ko yihi zaracha. God promised Avram Avinu that he will have offspring like the stars in heaven. The second way we merited Birchas Kohanim is from Yaakov Avinu, from Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu, it says, Ani v'hana'ar nelcha ad ko, that by the Akedas Yitzchak, when they were going up to do the ultimate form of self-sacrifice for God, it says that we were going ad ko, and we know that that relates to Birchas Kohanim because it says ko tevarchu es b'nei Yisrael. And the third one is from Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, it says, it's referenced Yaakov Avinu by Matan Torah, where it says ko tomar lebeis Yaakov, that we have to teach the Jewish people the following, that the following is going to be taught to the house of Jacob. These 3 very important themes are the reasons that we merited Birchas Kohanim. It's not 3 exclusive ones, but all 3 of these messages is absolutely necessary. And I think it's quite important to notice that there weren't 2 opinions, there weren't 4 opinions, there were 3 opinions. Did you notice how many brachos are contained within Birchas Kohanim? Daber el b'nei Yisrael, Daber el Aaron ve'el banav le'mor, ko tevarchu es b'nei Yisrael emor lahem. 3 blessings. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom. 3 psukim, 3 blessings of Birchas Kohanim, because all 3 of these opinions are the reasons why we merited Birchas Kohanim. Avram Avinu represents in his Bris Bein HaBesarim the importance of continuing the offspring of the Jewish people, continuing in the generations of the Jewish people, being committed to the goal of making sure that the Jewish people are sustained for generations, but not just of people. We're not interested in just more numbers in our population. What are we interested in? We're interested in people that are committed to 2 things. The people that are committed to self-sacrifice of Ani v'hana'ar nelcha ad ko, a sacrifice of Akedas Yitzchak, that we are committed to, no matter what, we will give ourselves to you, God. That we live to a higher authority. Ani v'hana'ar nelcha ad ko. And we are interested in building an offspring building a next generation that is committed to Torah and its values. Ko tomar lebeis Yaakov. This is how we merit Birchas Kohanim, and this is how we cash in on Birchas Kohanim. That the way we cash in on Birchas Kohanim is by committing ourselves to making sure that the next generation is going to be set up appropriately, of being people that are committed to sacrifice themselves for the Torah and for God, and to commit themselves to the values of the Torah and to the mitzvos. When we have our eye on that kind of a goal, That is how we merit Birchas Kohanim. This past week, Rabbi Dr. Norman Lamb, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, passed away. Rabbi Dr. Lamb he started his career in the rabbinate as a rabbi in Springfield, Massachusetts, then went on to being the rabbi of the Jewish Center in Manhattan. In 1976, I believe, he was appointed to being the president of Yeshiva University and pulled Yeshiva University out from a terrible financial situation, literally saved the yeshiva. My Rabbi Hershel Schachter cannot reference Rabbi Lamb without crying. He would tell me stories about how, he had an issue he needed to go see Rabbi Lamb about, so he would go to Rabbi Lamb's office, and most of the time he wouldn't even be there because he was out saving the yeshiva. And then he would tell me a story and I went to go see Rabbi Lamb, and then he was there, and he'd start crying. He'd say, because it was such a chiddush he was there, because otherwise he'd be out saving the yeshiva. This is who Rabbi Lamb was. He was a person who was committed to cashing in on the Birchas Kohanim. That's exactly what he was committed to. I want to just share. It's not a long clip. It's probably 2 minutes, but I want to share with you the hesped that Rav Schachter just gave the other day for Rabbi Lamb. Listen to this. Tell me if you could hear it.
There's so many things that one could talk about. I'll concentrate on one nekuda. During this epidemic that we just went through, there was the halachic issue of triage. Hundreds of patients came into the hospital every day, and the doctors and the nurses simply couldn't deal with everybody at the same time. They had to decide who gets kedima. So one of the rules that appears in the Gemara, we couldn't give the secret to the public here in America. One of the klolim is that if one of the patients is your father, he takes kedima. If one of the patients is your Rabbi, he takes kedima to the other. So
the halacha would be, let's say, with regard to a number of different things, that if you have to make a choice between who you're going to help, either your father or your Rebbe, so Rabbi Schachter is pointing out, he's going to point out from the Gemara that your Rebbe comes first, and he's going to explain why.
Others. What if you have two patients? One is your father, one is your Rebbe. So the Gemara says that the Rebbe takes precedence, the Rebbe takes kedima, because the father brings you to Olam Hazeh, and the Rebbe brings you to Olam Haba, and that's more important. So then the Ramah in Shulchan Aruch quotes from the Sefer Hasidim in the third Chelik Yeridea, which is Talmud Torah. The Ramah quotes from Sefer Hasidim, if the parents are paying tuition, then the parents are the ones who are seeing to it that the child is educated with Torah. So the parents are living most of the day Olam Haba.
Meaning that when the parents commit themselves to this goal that we're describing right now of Birchas Kohanim, that turns them into the Rebbe. Meaning they're not just giving you life in this world, but they're giving you life for the next world also.
So then the parents take kedima because they brought the child to Olam Hazeh and to Olam Haba. The Shach there in his commentary on the side quotes the rest of the statement of the Sefer Hasidim. What if the parents are not paying tuition and the Rebbe is not teaching for nothing? The Rebbe is salaried, and there's a different person who's paying the tuition. And all three need help. So the one who is paying the Rebbe's salary is considered the one who's Meviyah, the Chayehu Olam Haba. Dr. Lamb all the years insisted on preserving the tradition of the yeshiva, that Schar Limud was not charged for Limudei Kodesh.
In YU, the price of tuition does not include Judaic studies. You pay for your college education you would in any other college. The Judaic studies we get at Yeshiva University is 100% free. 100% free. My smicha at YU was free.
The tuition only covered the secular studies. Limudei Kodesh were always free. And he accepted the responsibility upon himself to be like the B'nai Kohas, Noisim Misarim. He's the one who saw to it that all of the salaries were paid. I didn't teach for nothing. I wasn't maybe anybody to Chayehu Olam Haba. It was Dr. Lamb who brought all the thousands and thousands of boys and girls and Rabbeim, everyone who was learning in the Torah and the Rabbeim and everyone. He's the one who brought everybody l'chai olam haba.
That's what we're talking about over here. That the way that we could be zocha mehechan zachu Yisrael lebirchas kohanim. That how do we merit birchas kohanim? How do we cash in on the check? That we are 100% committed to mesiras nefesh, to self-sacrifice, for the goal of bringing more people, more Jewish people closer to the Torah, the next generation closer to the Torah, which is why it's so critical to support our local yeshivas, to support our local shul. It's so critical because we're engaging in accessing this Birchas Kohanim, accessing God's promise that He will take care of us as long as we also meet Him halfway by giving of ourselves, giving that self-sacrifice in order so that we can bring more Jews, the future generations, closer with the Torah. I want to just share one halacha about Birchas Kohanim that I think actually sheds light on how one make sure that they have this kind of an attitude. How does one actually do this successfully? So there's an amazing halacha, that it's a halacha that you're all familiar with, that we do Birchas Kohanim on Yom Tov. That's when Ashkenazim do Birchas Kohanim. Sephardim do Birchas Kohanim every single day. It says in the Torah, Kol Tevarchus B'nai Yisrael, that there's an obligation to go do Birchas Kohanim. And the Stipler points out that whenever the Torah leaves something as kind of like a blank, that there's an obligation, you have to do something, but it doesn't tell you when or how often. That means once a day. Like, for example, tefillah, prayer, where the Torah tells us that we have to serve God with all of our heart. The Gemara tells us, what is service of the heart? Zu tefillah, that is prayer. So the Rambam says that there's an obligation to pray every single day. The Torah doesn't tell us, when or how often to pray. The rabbis instituted that, but the Rambam says even from the Torah, it's at least once a day because it's a blanket statement. So therefore, Birchas Kohanim also should be every single day, once a day. But we do it only on Yom Tov. Ashkenazim do it only on Yom Tov. Why? So the Ramah tells us. The Ramah says, "Nahagu b'chol medinos elu," that in the medinos of Ashkenaz, there's an obligation to say Birchas Kohanim, she'ein nosin kapayim ela b'Yom Tov, that there's an obligation of Birchas Kohanim only on Yom Tov. Mishum, he says, because she'az sheruyim b'simchas Yom Tov, because on Yom Tov we have simcha, whereas the rest of the year our simcha is lacking. The tov leiv hu yivarech, and we can only experience Birchas Kohanim with simcha. Ma she'ein kein b'shar yamim, as opposed to any other days, afilu b'Shabbosos Hashana, even on Shabbos, shetaruim b'hirhurim al mechiyasim va'al bitul malachtam, that we're so verhitzt with all different things in our heads about work and about the public health and about how are my stocks doing and what's going on with sports, and we have all these different things going on in our head, and they're not bad things, they're just things that take up our headspace. However, on Yom Tov, we have an obligation, v'samachta b'chagecha, we have an obligation of simcha. And Birchas Kohanim can only stick, says the Ramah, if it's done with simcha. It's something critical. That if we actually want to accomplish this goal, it needs to be done with a smile. It needs to be done with a glee. It needs to be done with bringing someone in closer to the Torah. When I support the yeshiva, when I support the shul, I do it with a simcha. I'm in it. I'm excited about it. That is how you're going to, and this is a lesson not just, on this macro level, but even as individuals, we know that the more excited we are about something, so then the more we're going to, attach ourselves to it. I actually asked Rabbi Zion Cook Shlita, this, Rabbi Yashiv's Talmud, Rabbi Zion Cook, I asked him, I said, can you give me some parenting advice? Just general parenting advice. Like if there's one thing that I can do that is going to certainly help my children grow into B'nai Torah and B'nos Torah, what's the one thing that I can do? He says, do everything in your house with simcha. You do it with a smile on your face, you do it with an excitement, your kids are also going to be excited. Every time there's a bracha they can make, do it with an excitement. Every time that there's an opportunity to go do a mitzvah, do it with excitement. Every time that you have to go take them to take a bath, do it with excitement. Do everything with excitement. And then they're going to attach themselves to the message. They're going to attach themselves to the principles. As educators, we know that that's a necessity. And we as a community, when we support these institutions, we have to understand that that's a necessity as well. In order so that, how is it that we are going to be zochet to Birchas Kohanim? How is it that we are going to cash in on this big check of Birchas Kohanim? Through this principle, through the principle of making sure, this fundamental idea of making sure that we are raising the next generation to be people that are committed to self-sacrifice, to Mesiras Nefesh for God, and for specifically the Torah and the Torah's values. And we do that with a simcha. We do it with a smile. All right, we'll stop here. Wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos, and again, I want to thank our sponsors, the Jaffes and the Lotzos, for such great learning. All right, we'll stop here. My next class is starting in 7 minutes ago. All right. So anyone has any questions, just shoot me an email.
Thank you, Rabbi. Very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.